Oh my God. Well, by now, if you've already read Ready Player 2 and could tell by my reaction, you know exactly how much of a disappointment this sequel is. Now, I'm not saying that it's terrible. It isn't, but overall, I just wasn't impressed by anything, and the one word that comes to mind is unnecessary. And I'm really hoping that it was Ernest Cline's decision to write this book rather than someone's nudging him and saying, hey, remember that wildly popular novel that you wrote 9 years ago? Maybe it's time for a sequel, don't you think? This is just speculation on my end, but it just seems that if you write a sequel 9 years later, you probably never intended to write one in the first place. Obviously, every case is different, but that's just the way that this one feels. Did he really need to tell this story, or was he persuaded? The story picks up a few days after Wade wins Halliday's contest. A message is left for Wade to open up a vault that contains a new piece of technology left by Halliday that will transform the interaction of Oasis users, the ONI headset, which allows users to use their senses while in the Oasis. You can now feel, taste, touch, smell, anything that you can interact with in the Oasis as if you were in the real world. The only thing that's diminished is pain, which feels more like a pinch rather than excruciating. When you first log in using the ONI headset, it makes a scan of your brain so that once you enter the game, it can use those senses. Every ONI user also has the ability to create recordings in the real world and upload it to the Oasis as a .oni file so that another Oasis user can go to that file, download it, and experience everything that that person recorded. Touch, taste, smell, anything. You could experience what it would be like to be a surfer, a rock star playing in front of thousands of people, and all of the emotions that that person was feeling as they were recording it. Wade and the rest of his clan, H, Samantha, and Shoto, all take a vote on whether to release this to the public, weighing both the positive and the negative aspects. Let's say you're in a wheelchair and can't walk. The ONI headset would allow you to control your avatar with your mind and not only walk again, but be able to experience what it felt like to walk again. It also could help terminally ill patients feel joy and pleasure again without any pain. It transformed the way that people experience drugs, sex, and other things, all within a safe environment. But Samantha votes against releasing it. She claims that the headset will become even more addicting and isolating than the Oasis already is. After all, why would you go out and try to live in the real world when a nearly perfect one exists right at your fingertips? The story overall has a much darker tone than the first book, especially with Wade and Halliday, but I really didn't feel like it needed it. I like a dark story that explores the humanity of characters, but Ready Player One wrapped up so satisfying for me that I couldn't help but feel that leaving the reader to the imagination on where the story was going to go next would have been a better option. Upon using the ONI headsets, it launches a new Halliday contest for Oasis users. Collect the 7 shards of the Siren Soul, put them back together, and decide what to do with the prize that you're given. Wade's clan has been given a time limit of 12 hours to complete the contest because the villain of the story traps every single ONI headset user within the Oasis and holds them as hostages because he wants Wade to collect all these shards for him. This is a problem because since the ONI is connected to your brain, after 12 hours of continuous login, your brain starts to exhibit symptoms of synaptic overload syndrome, which could leave you in a permanent coma and give you brain damage. If Wade and his team fails, then there's literally millions of lives at stake. Whereas the 80s references were integral to Ready Player One, in this book they just felt forced and out of place. So the whole contest just felt really rushed to me. 12 hours to collect 7 shards, which means that there were 7 different 80s themed challenges that you had to go through. And it just didn't feel like there was enough time for each of those challenges to be expanded upon. And some of them I just straight up hated. The whole John Hughes movie sequence and the planet where they had to go battle Prince. I was just waiting and wishing for these sections to be over. I was sitting there like, get me out of here. Even the villain of the book wasn't that original. Who the villain was a twist, but the type of villain that it was not. And that'll make more sense once you read the book. At least in Ready Player One, Sorrento being a big tech giant who wants to ruin the Oasis with ads and a pay-to-play platform is a villain that we haven't seen before in a book. But this time around in Ready Player Two, without giving too much away, we've seen this type of villain before. Oh, so you're the villain? But we've kind of seen that before. Yeah, I know. But I don't want to diminish the amount of effort and research and comprehension that it took for Ernest Cline to write this book. Bravo, because I can't even fathom trying to collect all the trivia that he was able to piece together. Especially the Silmarillion references by Tolkien. I love the Lord of the Rings films and I'm currently making my way through The Fellowship for the first time, but the amount of comprehension that it took to understand the Silmarillion and incorporate its ideas into one of the challenges was astounding. I remember reading like the first 5 pages of that book years ago and putting it aside and be like, nope, I'm going to save this for later. I can't understand this right now. But that's just what some of it felt like, trivia for trivia's sake, rather than the cohesive glue that held Ready Player One together so well. The book tackles a lot of humanitarian issues. The concept of artificial intelligence is incorporated, the future of the human race, whether Wade should press the big red button that was the power that was given to him by Halliday, and the type of disastrous global consequences that could have with trade, healthcare, and the economy. All these things sound great when I talk about it, but the book just couldn't quite get there. I crave these types of intellectual conversations, and I actually enjoyed the real world issues more this time around rather than all the stuff that was happening in the Oasis. Because the first book was all about the Oasis, and this one seems to be copying that formula, but I couldn't help but feel that if this book took place more in the real world, which it, obviously does at times, I would have enjoyed that more rather than going through another contest. There were times that it started to pick up and I was like, all right, now maybe there's some momentum that I can hang on to. But those moments were short-lived and few and far between. And kind of similar to the first book, everybody on Wade's team just happens to be an expert on every single piece of knowledge and trivia that's required for this contest. That was one of the biggest problems that I had with Ready Player One, was that there just doesn't seem to be enough time in someone's life to become an expert on all of the knowledge and trivia required to defeat this challenge. Not only enough time to become an expert, but to plan ahead to defeat the challenge, and also the amount of time required to defeat the challenge. All of this within a 12-hour time block. Again, I'll say that it felt rushed. Most of the time I felt indifferent at best and found myself taking more breaks than usual and getting distracted. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I really hope that the movie is better than the book when it inevitably gets made. And if there's one thing I hate in books other than characters being brought back from the dead, it's when characters swoop in at the last second to save the day, which happens several times in this book. Though I did get goosebumps reading the last page of the book in a good way as it wrapped up. I'm giving this book a 3 out of 5. Far from impressive, but I wouldn't say that I hated it. Just a few bizarre directions that the book decided to take. Typically when I read books, I take notes and I use that as my bookmark, and they usually don't exceed past a page and a half. Typically I just write down what I liked, what I didn't like, what I would have changed. But this book has 6 full pages of notes, as you can see here. And since I have so many thoughts about this book, I'm going to be doing an extended discussion video, just discussing, mainly what I liked, what I didn't like, and what I would have changed about the book. So keep an eye out for that. A disappointing sequel, but at least we still have Ready Player One to enjoy. But please, let's not make a trilogy. Please. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next book review video. See you later.